our society is manufacturing fake survival and we're all less free because of it. At least that's what I think. Here's why. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Tobias. I'm an engineer, ex-product manager who is trying to escape the grind and rethink how we work. In this video I want to talk about how I think we are enslaving ourselves through what I call artificial survival. That is, survival caused by society and not by nature. Before we start, here's a bit of a disclaimer. I am not here to solution smuggle. That is, I'm not here to promote any form of ism, whether it's capitalism, communism, socialism, or I don't know, SpongeBobism. I don't know what the solutions are or if it's even possible to fix, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about the problem. With that said, let's start by imagining what I call Robotopia, a society where everything is made by robots. It's fully automated. Not a single human finger has to be lifted to produce what we need, such as, food, water, and shelter, and so on. However, despite their advanced technologies, the Robotopians still have to work 40 hours per week to afford what they need. Their economic system is built on currency, so they need to have jobs and to work in those jobs in order to buy what the robots produce. As a consequence, the Robotopians are technologically free. They physically don't have to work, but their economic system forces them to do so in order to survive. In this sense, they are manufacturing survival. They are forced to work for their needs, even though doing so is physically unnecessary. This thought experiment illustrates a phenomenon that I call artificial survival. That is, survival caused by man-made rules and systems, such as our economic system or political system, and not by the laws of nature. Other names for it is fake survival or manufactured survival. Let me know down below which name you prefer or if you have your own suggestions. So what, I hear you say. What does it matter? Well, artificial survival makes us less free by stealing our free time. To see why, let's consider a lone person, which we'll call Bob, who is surviving alone in the forests. Some amount of work is necessary for Bob to perform, unless he gathers food and gets clean water and shelter and all these other things. His health will start to deteriorate and he will eventually die. But once he's done doing all of that, the time that remains is time that is discretionary. He can do whatever he wants with it. He can dance or go swimming, climb a tree, or talk to imaginary friends. Admittedly, there's not that much you can do in a forest. Consequently, the less time he has to spend to care for his needs, the more free time he has, and the more free he is. How much he has to work depends on two things: his technology and his choices. Regarding technology, the better his tools are, the less time things take to do. It's much easier and faster to chop a tree in half if you have a saw than if you're trying to use your hands. He also has a choice in how he satisfies his needs, and some choices require more work than others. For example, his need for calories. Baking a cake takes much more time than baking a loaf of bread. How we satisfy our needs therefore impacts the work and the time required to do so. Now let's add some artificial to survival to see how that impacts the situation. Now let's imagine that Bob is in a group of people with Alice, Bob and Charlie. Physically not much has changed, they all have needs that need caring for. What has changed though is an additional factor. So instead of only technology and choices, it also matters who does what. So how much work they have to do varies between who is doing the work. For example, Bob could be really tall and be very good at picking apples, whereas Alice could be really good at making houses. And everyone doing what they're best at means that we reduce the amount of necessary time required. For sake of illustration, however, let's assume that there's a fixed amount of necessary time per person, say 20 hours per week. Now let's add some artificial survival to the mix. So this is a bit contrived, but imagine that Alice is really bored and they all agree, or she agrees primarily, that Bob must dance while the others work in order for her to be entertained. And if he doesn't do this, then Bob doesn't get food. This is artificial survival. He now has to do something unnecessary, caused by his social environment in order to survive. Now let's return to the graph. If Bob isn't going to carry his own weight, the others have to make up for it and do the work on his behalf. The 20 hours of work that Bob isn't doing means 10 hours per person for the others, assuming that no one is going to starve. Since we're assuming that Bob has to dance while the others work, that means that he also has to do 30 hours of work per week. Due to the introduction of artificial survival, now everyone has to work 30 hours per week instead of 20. As a consequence, everyone has less free time and is therefore less free. If we could somehow manage to minimize artificial survival and to share the necessary work, we could all have more free time and all therefore be more free. This is, of course, not what we're doing. Our technologies and productivity keep improving and improving, which means that our necessary time keeps reducing. In other words, we need to work less and less to actually produce what we need. Technologically, this means that we're getting more and more like the Robotopians. And yet, this has no impact on how much we actually have to work. The 40-hour work week remains a standard. And inflation and stagnant wages means that we actually have to work more to earn what we need. The only difference therefore between us and the Robotopians is that they have to work none, we have to work some. But for neither does that matter, because our societies are filling the gap with manufactured artificial survival. We are forcing ourselves to survive needlessly, and it's making us less free in the process. What do you think about how much we actually have to work and what it actually means for our freedom? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, let me know by liking and subscribing. Thanks a lot for this time, guys. See you. Bye.